You're listening to Booked, the bookstore education podcast brought to you by the American Booksellers Association. In this episode, we're tuning into the session on festivals presented during Events University at Children's Institute 2019 in Pittsburgh.
Okay, we're going to get started, everyone. Welcome to the Dog and Pony Show, otherwise known as Valerie and Kathy from Blue Willow Bookshop. We are thrilled to be here, and we understand that the morning session was really good, so maybe we can live up to about half of that. So my name's Valerie Kaler. I own Blue Willow Bookshop. Kathy and I have known each other for a long time. Kathy is our event coordinator. Just so you know, she didn't start as our event coordinator. She actually started as she was a reader for me when her kids were little. And
they're in college now.
And the reason I say that is because we'll talk a little bit about the origins of the festivals that we do, but just remember that this is a long time in coming. So when Kathy began, working at Blue Willow, she was first a reader. That's what she did for me. And then I needed someone to help me with the newsletter, and she took that on. And then slowly, as it evolved, she became the event coordinator. So if you don't have an event coordinator, don't freak out. I didn't have one for a very long time. So I am supposed to thank Baker and Taylor very much for their support. And to remind you of all of these events that are coming up, which is tomorrow, first ever Children's Institute ABA Town Hall, where I will be heckling the board now, after having sat up at the front for so many years. And then we have the Mix and Mingle. Following Mix and Mingle, we have the author reception, which begins at 5:15 in the Green Tree Ballroom. We want to thank all the publisher sponsors. And then on Friday evening, a special screening of Fred Rogers' documentary that begins at 6:30 in Foster. Also, I have been asked to sell Bink flashy pens. Yay. And that's these right here. They're $15 per or two for $25. All the proceeds go to Bink. You can pay by check, credit card, or cash, at the Bink table in the lobby.
There's another Bink seller right there.
And there's another Bink seller right here. So if you see someone waving these around, there's a fun game at the end. I think it's going to be at breakfast on Friday, and it's always a lot of fun to help a good cause. So that's it. So introduction. We do 3 festivals a year.
Hang on, we're not there yet. We welcome them.
We
welcome.
And
Blue Willow Bookshop.
There we are.
Why don't you talk about the store?
The store is 1,400 square feet, 200 in the back, 1,200 in the front. And when we talk about these festivals, you're going to go, where do you put all that stuff?
You'll see.
We're going to show you a picture of our storage unit. Okay, 11 years ago.
How old is the store?
The store is 22 years old. I bought a bookstore that had opened in 1973. I bought it in 1996. Thought it might go for and it's half kids, half adult, as Kathy's telling me. Now, interestingly, up until Monday, I would have told you that, it's about half and half in sales. But what I haven't told Kathy is that I was looking on above the tree line and in the analytics, and I didn't know that our middle grade readers, which is going to make Kathy very happy, is about 23% of our sales, which is a lot, which is a lot. So,
Enough of that. So 15 years ago, I started working for Valerie.
Was it 15?
Yes, it was 15 years ago.
It seems like a long time.
That is a long time.
Okay, go.
Zach was in the kindergarten room, and he's now in college. Anyway, we met at a book signing, and as Valerie said, I started working for her on a limited basis, and then that is now increased to the point where I'm the event coordinator. I help her with the children's buying, and I'm the programming director for the 3 festivals that we put on.
11 years ago?
It was 11 years ago.
11 years ago, I was approached by a school librarian, and she had been to the Children's Book Festival she'd heard about the Children's Book Festival in Rochester, New York. She had gone to an ALA session, and she really wanted to do it. Okay, this can't leave the room, but I knew she could not. So I said,
She's
well,
right.
and proved right. Anyway, I said, you know what? You need to partner with somebody, and I'm going to put you, she wanted to do a teen book festival. I said, I'm going to introduce you to the best teen librarian in this entire city. They met.
Maybe the country, and we will fight you on that.
They met, and it started. And that's how we started it.
So we do, okay, so I'm sorry, this is our syllabus. We're introducing now, then we'll go through our mission, ingredients for success, cost, because these do cost money in spite of what I might have said at a session 5 years ago, how to sell the books, and then how to run the programming. So we have 3 festivals. Teen Book Con began how Valerie told us 10 years ago. So it will be, its 10th birthday is in March.
After the second Teen Book Con, some librarians who were on the executive committee who were in the hospitality suite for the authors approached me after it was over and said, we'd like to do one, but just for tweens. I said, I can't tell Kathy that yet because she has to
get the authors on the bus.
She had to get the authors on the bus, and then I have to let her settle down a little bit. So I gave her about 30 minutes. And I said, hey, guess who wants to do a tween festival? And so that's where we started with the tweens. That's been going on now for.
It'll be its 8th year. So Teen Book Con is every spring. Tweens Read is every fall. And then another school district came to us and said, we want to do a festival. So we don't like to overlap. So we offered picture books. So now Bookworm will be in its 6th year in February. And we very strategically place them at different times of year for 2 reasons. 1, our sanity. And 2, because we try to capture authors on tour. So we try to schedule these during big touring bumps. So publishers will send the authors to us and that way the authors are not requesting an honorarium. So the first thing we've got to do is talk about a mission. The mission of all 3 of these festivals is basically to connect readers with authors. And that mission drives every decision-making point, whether it's purchasing books, whether it's programming, whether it's which authors to bring in. You just keep reverting to what your mission is.
That doesn't mean that every book festival has to have that mission. I think that every town is a little bit different. Every city's a little bit different. We very purposely break it into 3 different festivals. We could conceivably do one with all 3 age levels there, but that's what our mission is. So I would just want to say that if you are thinking of a festival, think out of the box. Don't think, oh, I have to do a teen one. Oh, I have to do this. It's going to be different for each one of you as you go forward. Or if you're just trying to recharge your festival, and I'm just going to ask, is anybody in here already kind of heavily involved in a sort of a town-wide festival, city-wide festival? We have some in here. Good. And we very purposely decided not to do adult. And I know that there are towns that have very successful festivals with all 3, both adult and kids. But we are only about 2.5 hours from Austin, and the Texas Book Festival is one of the biggest book festivals in the country. So we didn't want to interfere with that.
Well, not only that, they do it beautifully, and it's not hard to get there.
Yeah.
So why bother? And again, think about what you want to do and why you're doing it. It's missional in terms of connecting readers with authors, but it's also missional in selling books. So here's a couple pictures that I think indicate the mission. So that is a father reading to his son at our Bookworm Festival. There is a young lady meeting Kirsten White, and clearly, that's the moment. I mean, that's when you feel like you have delivered on your mission. When you can provide that moment for 1,000 teenagers, for 2,000 teenagers, that's a pretty cool thing. It didn't start out that big, P.S.
I think the first one we probably had between 300 and 400.
And 8 authors.
And 8 authors. And I think we probably had about 1 to 200 at our first tweens and about the same for our Picture Book Festival. So they did not start large. We just built each time a little bit more, added a little bit more programming, added a few more, wonderful partnerships with librarians, partnerships with the publishers, and just grew them organically over the course of the last 12 years.
And then there's another one from Bookworm of a family attending. So I should say Tweens Read and Teen Book Con are both full day long festivals. Bookworm is only a morning festival because it's for preschoolers and early elementary school students, and kids don't want to be there that long. We don't need to be involved in a meltdown. And that way we also don't have to provide food.
Although we are going to provide food next time. Snacks. Yeah, we are. You're not involved in that.
I know. Thank you. Okay. And then here again is an audience at Bookworm. This year it grew exponentially because of our partnership. We had to make all parents stand outside. And we shoehorned as many preschool and early elementary children into there. And I think right there they're listening to Vashti Harrison. So that was pretty cool. But you see the engagement on their faces. Again, that's a moment that's really great to be able to deliver. So now we want you guys to visit with your tables, even if you have no idea or no intention of planning a festival. Talk about what kind of missions you could have. Talk about, if you have a festival already, what are your missions? Perhaps you can share with your table. And just brainstorm a few things for about
3 minutes.
3 minutes. Go.
Okay, it's been 3 minutes. So hopefully you maybe learned a thing or two. And at this point, does anybody have any A, questions, or B, something that they want to share that you learned or that you know about possibly the mission of your festival? Okay then.
All right.
Here too.
Okay. Stephanie's coming to you with the microphone. It's Phil Donahue.
And again, I feel like I'm talking a lot, so I apologize. This is my first time. But so where my
and what store are you from?
Oh, Gathering Volumes in Ohio. And our school system has gotten rid of all of our libraries and librarians recently. And so in talking they're very STEM oriented. We're the second STEM certified school district in Ohio or something like that. So in talking to teachers and then also having 2 children of my own, especially avid readers, obviously my kids are pretty avid readers, that's really kind of lacking for those kids now, and everything's being pushed STEM. And in talking to the teachers, especially the high school teachers, they say the kids come to them from the junior high, all of them basically saying, I don't like to read because they don't really get to read much and they don't get to pick what they read hardly at all. So I've been thinking about doing a teen book festival basically because I feel like that's where the schools are starting to fail the kids who are avid readers. And they don't get that in the schools as much. So my mission is to get teens to keep them reading during a period where they may not be doing much in the schools.
I think that's a great idea. I agree because how horrible to not have libraries in the schools, but you can make that up. And right here. Wait, she's going to bring. Great thing.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Deb Leonard. I work for Literati Bookstore in Ann Arbor. And my personal mission is to get books in the hands of kids that don't have any. For me, that starts way before high school. It's really board book, almost age. Well, yes. And I could give you a treatise on why I think that's important, but that's what I want to do.
Good. And we have one more over here. It's a great mission to get those books in the kids' hands.
Our teen book festival in Pittsburgh, it's similar. We just want to connect the readers with the authors, but the step further for us, because we're an arts nonprofit and not a bookseller, is to inspire a lifelong love of reading, but also like the potential to be a writer yourself. So we integrate like free writing workshops and things like that.
Excellent. Right over here.
That's all right.
Hi, my name is Stephanie. I am from Print a Bookstore in Portland, Maine. One of the things I'm sure everybody knows about Maine is that it is one of the whitest states in this country. But Portland in particular is very different and has been changing a lot. I think since around 2010 or so, the number of people who are living in the city who are born outside of this country has doubled. There are 30 different languages getting spoken in all of our public schools on a daily basis. And just recently, Daniel Minter, wonderful, amazing children's book illustrator, and his wife, Marcia, have started the Indigo Arts Alliance, which is a arts and co-working space that is mainly focused on Black creators, but also open to other artists of color. So we are kind of in the very beginning stages, working with them hopefully to start a children's book festival in Portland. And I don't have the exact phrasing for it, but I definitely want it to be something that's focused on Portland now versus what it's been before, and finding a way to bring these communities together. Because I feel like on the daily basis, like our schools are doing a really great job at being there for these students and to bring the students together. But at the same time, even though just a couple streets from us, like there are these great communities of people from other cultures that never come into the store because they don't feel like it's their space. And so I want to come up with something that will make it their space and make it accessible.
Portland now. That is an awesome phrase.
Yeah,
That actually is a great segue for us.
that is. Partnerships.
Exactly. Thank you for providing that. So we're going to talk about ingredients for success, partnerships. I have to check something because I can't see my next slide. Okay, it does do that. Okay, so partnerships. We partner for each festival. We partner with a school district in the greater Houston area. And for those of you who don't know, Houston is the size of Rhode Island. I am not lying. And each one of those school districts, we deliberately partner with a school district that has a significant Title I population. That is a very deliberate choice for us, because the simple fact is that more affluent families will get their children to festivals wherever they are in a state, in a region the size of Rhode Island, but other families might not have the means, wherewithal, or knowledge that it even exists. So we partner with 3 school districts. These are the 3 schools where we hold our festivals. Don't they look nice?
They look nice. Who took those pictures?
The districts did, not us.
Not us.
So they're huge, they're big high schools. And what we do is we work.
The way it's set up is we have an executive committee. So when the very first festival started, the 2 librarians that started it went around to their librarian friends and said, hey, we want to do this. Got buy-in from the school, buy-in from the school district, which included the head of the library services having to go to the school board and say, we want to do this, and getting permission to do it. And then our role in that is that we provide the authors. So over the course of the last 12 years, these partnerships, these executive committees, if you will, formed not 501c3s. They are nonprofit charities. They operate with either a board or an executive committee. Kathy is their programming director. She is not in charge of the festival, and that's purposeful on our part, because from the beginning I really wanted those committees and those partners to go out and find money from other people in order to do it. So we had.
No, okay, but we'll come to that in a minute.
Okay. Correct. 501c3, you can donate to them and take it off your taxes. They do, but in doing that, it kind of separated us, and they are able to go after other monies from other partnerships. Over the years, it's been different things. The Barbara Bush Foundation has helped the festivals, but we try to separate that out on purpose so that, like I said, so that they could go after grant money, and it didn't look like we were going after that grant money. The entity, the Team BookCon entity, is going after that money. So some of their suppliers like Follett and other library services providers have given them cash donations. So you have to think about that partnership and think really hard what that's going to look like, how you're going to form that partnership with whoever it is. I'm going to tell you that it takes an incredible amount of work to do on our part alone. So if you don't have good partnerships out in the community, it's almost going to kill you to do it, because it takes a lot of Kathy's time, a lot of my time, a lot of my entire staff's time to put these on. So don't enter lightly. Don't enter thinking, oh, we can do this really easy and it's going to, you really have to find some sweet partners. And we have been very fortunate. We have moved school districts. We had a partnership in one school district for a few years for one of our festivals, and the support there left basically, and we had no support. And so we moved to another school district that was really gunning to get a festival in their area of town. And it turned out to be a really sweet move on our part, on the festival's part. So just look hard at who you're going to choose.
I think that's, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That summarizes it really well. But what these partners provide to us is the space, the janitorial, the district takes on that expense because it is now, we've been doing this for 10 years. It's now a big deal for them to be able to say, we've hosted Teen BookCon. So they want to do that, but it is not, there are several thousands of dollars of district money that goes into providing that partnership.
Correct.
And so you need a lot of lead time in planning that. They need to build it into their budgets. The other partners are publishers. Like I said, we deliberately plan to hold these festivals during heavy touring times for publishers, so that if an author is on tour, they might want to send them to Houston for the festival. It did not start out with the level of support that you see on that banner. We got really lucky in that Simon & Schuster said, you know what, that sounds kind of cool, we'll try it. And the first year they sent us probably 3 or 4 authors. So the other publishers were like, oh, well, if Simon's going to do that, then maybe we'll send an author. We were just very fortunate that the head of publicity at the time thought it sounded cool and jumped on board. We owe a lot to him, to Paul Crichton. He really started us off. But it has grown, and part of that grows because we work very hard to deliver the deal. And the deal is the authors are treated very well. We promote the heck out of the festival. We work very hard with our committee to run the festival very smoothly. So the authors feel valued and the publisher feels like this was well worth the expense to send them to your city, because it's not an inexpensive proposition.
Correct. So the committee talks a lot about how we're going to take care of these authors. And we do a lot of things, and we're going to go into a little bit of detail, some of the things that the committee does to make these authors feel special. The other thing that we do that we started from day one was, as Kathy said, connecting the readers to the authors, is we try to make it as up close and personal for those authors and their fans and the kids. So we made a deliberate decision that kids came first. So if you were sitting in this room and you're as the adult and there's a bunch of teens in here and there's authors up here and they're talking about their books, it's going to be the teens that get to ask the questions, not the adults. It's the teens that get that close up personal experience with them. And it has worked. And, you know, we thought a lot about it, but over the years, every author that's ever been to any of our festivals has said, I had such a great time because I really got to spend time with my fans. I really got to spend time with the kids who I write for.
With not just fans, but the kids in the target age group. And that's another thing that we've worked very hard with at these festivals is I think in all three festivals, we have at least 70% of the attendees at all three festivals are in the target age group. And that's critical for us in delivering that mission.
So a lot of them come on buses. They come unattended,
we have that.
as I like to say. We'll talk about that part.
We'll get to that in a minute.
Get to the part about the unattended kids. Saturdays.
I'm sorry, that's
Saturdays.
a great point.
That's a great question.
It's always on a Saturday.
Right. So we wouldn't be able to do anything on a school day. I'm sure all of you who have anything to do with the school district knows that the schools are locked down tight from the beginning to the end of the school day. So we would not be able to do anything on a school day. It has become increasingly harder to do anything at a school, even after school.
Instructional time.
Yeah.
At least in the state of Texas, the testing stakes are so high that we find it more and more of a challenge to even get in the door with an author to do a visit. We have to provide a lot of documentation and encouragement to do it. So now we're at another discussion point. Why don't you talk amongst yourselves for, again, 3 or 4 minutes about what partnerships you might have or might think about in your community. Go.
People. Okay. Comments, questions about partnerships, community, publishers. Did we get to publishers yet, Kathy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Remember we talked about Paul Craig.
Oh, that's right.
Anybody?
Right here?
Okay, good. Yes, come on, Stephanie, let's run you.
I have a question and a comment. So the question is more about like going back to publishers sponsorships. Were you able to cultivate like money sponsorships, or was it just sending the authors? Like what was that relationship?
So now it's both.
Okay.
At first it was just sending the authors because we wanted to keep it simple and who knew if it would work. Now we offer a number of levels of funding that some of the marketing departments for some of the publishers choose to participate in, and some of them provide a blank, like here's X number of dollars, do whatever you want with it, and others are like, here's X number of dollars, we want A, B, C, D, and E. But money is money, and we are happy to take it. On behalf of the festival.
On behalf of the festival, though. Not us.
We don't take it.
We don't take it.
It goes to the festival. The festival is happy to receive it.
Correct. So we have to keep those expenses separate. Not expenses, that income it goes to the festival. Okay. And one of the things I do, sorry, what was your comment?
Oh, just a different partnership, that we did that is unique to like libraries and schools is a partnership with 88 Cups of Tea, the podcast.
Yeah.
With Yin Chang. So she did like a feature for us, and she did a feature episode too. So it was like
cool.
sort of a unique
stealing that
partnership. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, right here. Stephanie.
Thank you. Other than what you said about sort of schools being sort of unavailable to you Monday through Friday, and like really Saturdays being your day consequently, are there any other challenges or downsides of using schools as your venues that it might be helpful for us to consider or be aware of?
I'm trying to think. So, this one school that Kathy showed you is a beautiful school. It's on a good day over an hour from the store. So one of the challenges is how to get everything down there.
Which you'll see in a minute.
It involves, yes, it is challenging. So if you have been with us on a festival day, you know that it is still dark when we get up and we get to the storage unit to pack up to go to these festivals. So yeah, there are definitely, challenges, and there's challenges with every school district. Every one of them's like, you have to have admin support.
That
is
key.
So key. If your building principal is not on board with this, I can tell you right now, it is going to be very difficult to do. So if it's just making friends with the building principal, the librarian could be all about it. But what we have found is that not only do you have to have the building principal support, you have to have somebody in the admin of that school district on board. It's very, very important on a school level because there are so many rules that they have to follow. I think there's a question there and then a question here.
The festival runs on a shoestring.
All three.
And so I'm sorry did everyone hear the question? The question was, a building administrator might want to know, how does this money come to my school? No money goes to the school. The school gets the cachet of hosting one of the best festivals in the country and providing,
That's a pretty tall order.
Well, that's
there.
what I say to them. It might not be true, but that's what I say to the school. And access to amazing authors for their students and students in the greater Houston area. And don't you want to be a leader?
Right. And it also kind of fulfills what I found is that it kind of checks a box in their mission statement in a big way. And that's one way you can present it to the admin, is that by hosting this festival, if one of your key missions as the school district is to promote lifelong reading maybe, or lifelong increase literacy, then you're doing it. You can check that puppy off. You can go to the school board with that. So definitely that. And I think we have a question over here and then there.
Thanks. Another potential partner and fundraising opportunity that should never be overlooked is your local town, city, state, county. They might have either a cultural commission or a community economic development program or department that has funds that need a home, and that home could be this festival of yours. I've even seen, if any of you are familiar with this type of thing, federal money, community development block grants, if your local municipality has access to those funds, they have to be used for low to moderate income areas. And if you have one of those, you can definitely sort of position your festival as, promoting literacy for low to middle income families and stuff like that. So that's definitely something that you should look into.
So remember, that was a great point. And remember that by separating the bookstore from the festival in terms of having a mission, 501c3, all of these things, that's where they can go. The committee can go for that. I can't go there. I can't go and say, hey, I'd like you to give me some money to throw a festival so I can make money. It doesn't work that way. But the committee can go because you have a mission, you have it set up. You may not be 501c3 right away, but you clearly have a mission, and we're part of that mission. And you had a question. Uh-huh. Right. So we are sponsors. So the bookstore actually writes a check to each festival. We kind of gave them the seed money basically the first few years. I wrote them a check and said, from here, from my marketing funds, I wrote them a check and said, here's some seed, and now you're going to need to go out and find more money. Yes, the festivals are profitable. Why would we be doing it otherwise? Well, we would be doing it because it's kind of, it's a mesh. It's a mix. It's a mix of positioning us as your go-to bookstore. It's positioning us as a place where authors can come. Therefore, we get authors throughout the year because of our relationships from these festivals. And then, we get there's a lot of non-monetary things that come from having the festival, not just making money. Mm-hmm. No, I'm not giving it all back to the festival. I have to make payroll.
I cost money.
I have to make payroll. No, I don't.
No, it is. I don't.
No, but I do have to say that, I think that the relationships that we have with each of these different entities, each of these groups, they understand. They know they know that. They know that we're going to make some money off of this. And I don't think that they have a problem with that. I mean, they've never said anything to me to my face that they would have a problem with it.
And they also are beneficiaries of us being successful because we do more than 350 events a year, and 140 of them at least are school visits when authors come through Houston, and we take them into schools for free. And we try to be throughout the state of Delaware, but we also focus where Rhode Island, whatever. Sorry if I offended anyone on the East Coast. But we try to spread it out, but we also know where the good librarians are, where the engaged librarians and administrators are who are going to support bringing an author into a school. So it's kind of what goes around comes around.
That's why, and you were talking about admins, like, does any money come back to the school? Well, the school's not actually, I don't think the school's trying to make money, so they have to budget the expense rather than bringing an income in. And I think if they had an income coming in, don't quote me on this, but I'm thinking that might not look so good on their balance. I'm not sure. That's an interesting prospect. We've never been asked to do that. We have when we have used the schools otherwise. When we have a local middle school that we've hosted several authors this past month. We did pay for the janitorial and the AC, and we do pay for that. So I think
and that's as it should be.
Yes, because we are using their facility. Again, Blue Willow is not using the facility for these festivals. The festival is using the facility for the festival.
And because we're so intertwined, it's very hard when we say we.
Yes.
And I'll try to be more clear about that as we move on.
Okay.
So now, you provided an excellent segue. Thank you.
Cost. Yes. So yeah, we have to buy those books.
You have to pay us to sell them.
We have to pay, I have to have payroll. I have to make payroll to sell them. And then there's a lot of other little variables that go with it. Like I said, I think Kathy has a picture of it.
I do. Let's see. No, that doesn't come up till later.
Okay. All right. So, but there are other costs involved. I don't want to make this sound like it's free, like Kathy said.
It was 5 years ago. I'm sorry.
She said at a panel kind of like this at another children's institute, someone asked how much it cost.
I said nothing.
She said she said nothing.
It was like,
She said, oh, nothing. It doesn't cost anything. I'm like, wait a minute. Yes, it does. So there are costs involved, but again, at the end of the day, I think it's monetarily.
Government major and a librarian. I'm sorry.
Monetarily, it's definitely worth it for us for a lot of reasons, not just for the day of the festival, not just the books that we sell that day, but the relationships that we have that go forward from that. And we do sell a lot of books, so it's, we do sell.
Especially when you don't buy enough. Anyway.
Okay, I didn't buy enough last year so we had the Bookworm Festival. We moved from one school district to another. We lost the support in one school district, and so the committee decided to move it to another school district. Kathy says, I think they're going to be really behind it. I think they're going to really get the word out. I think we need to order more books. I said, no, I don't want to return anything.
How many books do you think were left? 8 books.
Maybe I underordered. Yeah, I underordered. Okay. I'll order more next year.
But does anyone we started the cost conversation. Does anyone have questions about cost, about expenses, things like that? Oh, sorry. Hang on. You know what we're going to do first? We're going to take a bathroom break.
This is a potty break.
Potty break. 5-minute potty break. All right, we're going to start up again.
Okay, we had a question.
Yeah, we have our friend in the denim jacket over here, Stephanie. That nice lady with the glasses. Here.
Okay, so let's see. Is it Kathy?
I am Kathy, yes.
Okay, so Kathy, are you an employee of the bookstore?
Yes.
Not the nonprofit. I'm just trying to figure out the hierarchy.
Exactly. I am Valerie's lackey.
Okay.
And
maybe at one time.
so I work at the bookstore, but I serve as programming director for all 3 festivals.
Okay, are you paid by the festivals?
Nope.
Okay.
No one is paid by the festivals. It's
Okay,
all
and
volunteer.
so there's it's all
And like I said,
volunteer.
when I said shoestring, I mean the thinnest possible shoestring, maybe angel hair pasta.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was trying to figure out
No,
those
exactly.
relationships.
It's
Right.
it's wonky, and
Okay.
welcome to our world. Okay, so we just discussed, okay, now, book selling.
Yay.
Here is how we're going to tell us all about, there's a slideshow accompanying, and Valerie will offer commentary. So, this is our fancy storage unit.
Fancy.
Very fancy.
It's about 2.5 blocks north of the store. I have to go through one light and one stop sign to get to it. I have a car. I haul a lot of books, and if I can, I wait until there's some muscle at the store to help me load the car, but I gotta tell you that a lot of times
You're the muscle.
I'm muscle. Which is why I'm taking muscle relaxants right now. Because I strained my back carrying groceries, not books.
An important thing to note here. You're going to think it's simple, but we learned it. I don't think anyone from Tattered Cover is here. But we learned it from Tattered Cover several years ago. On the end of each box is a piece of paper that has the title of the book, the author of the book, and what it's needed for. So that way we can stack books in an organized fashion, so you're not digging through everything trying to find the books that you mistakenly ordered the international edition of and can't sell at the festival.
That actually, we didn't order the international edition. They sent it, the international edition.
But we received it.
Because we didn't look at it closely enough. That happens. So, these are things that you just really need to think about. And over the years, we have, just every year we have a little,
we learn something
new every year, and we're like, why didn't we ever do this before? So ordering, it's kind of throwing spaghetti at the wall, as Kathy likes to say. Here's one thing that we did. We try to, if we don't know the author, if the author has never been to the bookstore or to one of the previous festival or is a debut, we try to see if we can find something from them maybe on YouTube or the internet and see if they're very exciting. Because if they're very exciting, then we're going to sell more books. So we kind of play that. It's true. And sometimes you think you've hit this. This is the one who's going to sell all the books, and it's not that one. It's the one next to it that you hardly ordered any books, but they turned out to be just this really charismatic speaker.
Yeah,
and
there was this woman named Angie Thomas, and she had a debut book.
Who knew?
We did okay. We did do okay on that one. But that's the thing you're having to guess on. The other thing I would point out about ordering is that you will have authors who have a backlist. And publishers may say, have these titles. If there's any way I can sneakily reach out to the author. Oh God, is there a publisher in here?
She reaches out to the author.
I will go through social media. I'll go through the contact form on their website. I'll try to DM them and say, hey, you're coming to the festival. We're putting together our order. Is there anything you're going to talk about besides your front list title? Because invariably every year we will bring in a certain number of backlist, and then a popular author talks about something totally different.
So we try to figure that out. And like I said, it's hit or miss. And you're going to have some returns at the end of the day. There's definitely going to be,
unless you don't order enough books and end up with 8.
It was really nice. We didn't have any returns after the festival. We could have sold more books. Okay. We could have sold more books. All right.
And then storage, which
you see.
Now here's the fancy transport we use. Look how well we packed that truck.
Oh my God. All right. And can I just tell you that on the way back from that festival, we were in the southeast part of the greater Houston area, and there are many freeways that flow through Houston, but that
They were all
Saturday,
closed.
they were all closed.
All.
Every one of them. We took us, I don't even know how long it took us to
2
get
hours.
back to the shop and to storage. Okay, I did hit a pylon going through the last toll booth.
I'm so glad I was not in that car.
Yeah, it was just a little pylon. Maybe that truck is a little wide for that one toll booth lane.
But anyway, we rent a Penske truck.
Yep.
Because, I mean, otherwise it's going to be all of us loading up our cars and driving down there, and that's just not the smartest choice.
True.
Here, okay, now, when we get to the school, we try to find high school volunteers who want to be at the school at 7 o'clock in the morning to unpack. As you can see.
I think that was either ROTC or
No, that was National Honor Society.
National Honor
Bless
Society.
those boys' hearts.
They got credit for it.
And then here, what do we start doing?
We unpack at the very early in the morning. There we are,
There's
unpacking with more volunteers. We have signage for each of the tables,
Which we finally, it took us 5 years to figure that out. Maybe we should sort it alphabetically by author. I'm a librarian and I didn't figure that out.
We do, and also, we do a lot of, we offer about a month or so out from the festival. We send out to all the people that are going to be volunteer librarians or any librarian that wants to put together a school order for these books. You have that coming up?
Oh, so here, then we set up our
computers and our squares. And again, I mean, we started this, we had one cash box behind us. What were we thinking? We had one or two computers, one computer, and then we wrote out little tickets, cash tickets for all the other books. We had to have a cash line and a charge line, lots going on there.
But Square has revolutionized how any of us can sell books, but in particular, it's revolutionized how things work at festivals.
Right. So we have invested, every year we invest in something new that makes that process a little bit better. And the people that took those pictures are leaving the room. Bye, Mary Kate and Noah.
Bye, Mary Kate and Noah. That's Two Cats Communications. They also handle all social media for the American Booksellers Association.
That's what they're doing here.
And Noah is now 3 shades of pink. I did it.
You did it.
I have my score for the day.
Okay. So,
and it's busy, and there's so Jennifer's sitting here in the corner. There's Jennifer selling books right there.
We have a purchase order line, and so if you come as a school teacher, as a librarian or whoever, and you're gonna buy books for the school, it's gonna be tax exempt, you're gonna get our educator discount, then you go through the purchase order line to get that all handled. And that also is a little bit, it can be a little, yeah.
Every year there's a headache from it, but it allows librarians to purchase.
Yeah. A lot of them will come and they'll buy a book for every kid they bring. They'll just budget that.
So there's an overhead look at the, you can see the books lined up alphabetically because we're now smart, and then people getting in line to buy books. And one of the things that you'll see at the Indies Introduced breakfast on Friday morning is every author reads for 60 seconds. And how did that influence us?
The book sales went up. Because each of them was reading, we said you have 60 seconds to read your best part, the hook of your book, if you will. And it really has increased. We learned that from Indies Introduced here at Winter Institute when they were reading just that little snippet, which hooked us as booksellers. And I said, we got to do that at the festivals. And the first year we did panels for our picture book, and after the second year I said, what kid wants to hear some author talk about their process when they're 4? No, they need to read the book. They want you to read the book. So at the picture book festival, they have an opportunity to read the book to the kids. That's what they're there for.
And the sales went like this.
Yes, they did.
So now talk about pre-signs.
Oh God. Jennifer's twitching back there. So, there's all kinds of things you can do to make your festival successful for you. One of the things that we offer for the people who are volunteering, and these people put a lot of hours into this. They come to meetings, they phone calls, they have a lot of different things, and they don't always get the opportunity to stand in line to get their book signed, or maybe even an opportunity to meet that author. Sometimes they do. So we offer to get their book signed for them, and that process is very detailed. I will not go into it right now, but if you do decide to do a festival and you want to ask about how we have
refined it
over the years, yeah, I'm happy to answer later or by email. Yeah. Whew.
So what happens is the books are pulled here from the pop-up store, and then at the author hospitality room, they sign during lunch. And then they have to be sent back to the pop-up shop and sorted by purchaser into piles, and then the purchasers pick them up. That's the ideal setup. Does anyone have questions about book selling, book ordering, anything like that at a festival?
No, we do not do merch. There is merch sold at the festival by the festival people. They will have t-shirts, sometimes little pens.
There's the raffle for
they raffle, one of the festivals raffles off a director's chair that's been signed by all the authors. So we kind of made that decision early on as well, that it would not be a merch festival. It would not be, and I'm not denigrating bloggers. It wasn't going to be about the adult bloggers. It was going to be about the kids. And if they were going to bring money, it was either to buy a book or to eat lunch.
Because we want them to spend money on books.
Yeah. So no, we do not, sell merch.
We do sell a t-shirt. They do. The festival sells a t-shirt.
Oh, excuse me. Yes, we do. Gosh, I forgot that. We do sell plush. If there is plush associated with a particular, like when we had Pow Pow Fish at the Picture Book Festival, yes, we did bring the plush that would go with it. So, yes. And what bookstore?
I am at Whiteland Books in Reading, Massachusetts. When are the sales? I don't know if you're going to go over the whole schedule of your day. Mm-hmm. So I'm just wondering, are these book sales happening throughout the course of the day or at specific times?
So once we get set up, and there's usually a line by the time we get all the computers and the squares and everything set up. Once it's actually 2 of the festivals we start selling right away. As soon as we're ready to go, we sell all day. The last thing of the day are the author signings, and that's when it starts to really slow down in the bookstore, and so we start to pack up then. But I usually leave one thing readily available to sell. It's easy enough for even just to have my little square thing that goes next to my phone, and I will sell until the bitter end. I do not want to return any books. So it goes on all day. Except for Tweens Read, which because we didn't, the last 2 years, we didn't start until after the keynote. Remember that?
That's right. But we're switching that.
What we found, with the Tweens Read was that, people were not attending the, opening keynote because they were too busy buying their books in the bookstore. So now we don't open the bookstore until after that keynote so that people will go and attend the keynote session. So. But then it's all day, and we're selling, like I said, all before, off of our book list that we put together, which is kind of a lot of detail going into putting together that order form.
That's the other thing we do is we create a pre-order form for educators who are going to be volunteering during the day or not attending. And it's an Excel spreadsheet, and we email it out and say, return it to us a week beforehand, and we'll make sure you get those books. And what that also lets us do is it lets us see if there's a spike in interest in one book so we can do a last minute order from a distributor or the publisher if they're speedy, and get that all turned around so we have enough, because we had to, remember, it was an early tweens. And we pulled everything for librarians, and all of a sudden we're like, there's no
that
books
was
for
the
kids.
first tweens. I didn't order enough. Okay. I learned my lesson.
Not really.
True. That's true. I didn't.
There's a question over there.
Over
and
there?
another question over here.
Thank you. Emil Christman. I'm from the Rivers End Bookstore in Oswego, New York. Mm-hmm. I have a question for both entities. So the first would be, does the book festival, do you have any giveaways, any raffles, anything like that? And for Blue Willow, just out of curiosity, which point of sales system are you using?
Okay, good.
Okay, so we do have a lot of giveaways, and the way we capture that is through registration, which I'll show you about in a minute, and then we just have random drawings throughout the day. We ask publishers to send us stuff. If they want to send us advanced copies of the books for whom authors are appearing, that's sort of okay, but otherwise, send us stuff that you're excited about for next season, and then kids are reading those books, or just send us swag, because heaven knows children like swag. So that's the kind of giveaways we're doing, is it's publisher supported.
So if we have swag throughout the year that we're sent for whatever reason that we didn't ask for, a lot of it.
But if it's cool,
we save it in storage, and we just put, the festival's name on it, and we know to bring it with us, and they'll go into those bags that will be handled by a committee member, not by us. We don't actually handle the raffle part of it. Again, as many things, not raffle. Oh yeah.
We're not allowed to raffle in Texas.
Yeah. We can raffle certain things. We can't require a purchase.
Anyway. I digress. I'm sorry. Point of sale.
Point of sale. So we have a visual anthology, and I have the book fair module, which allows me to take 2 computers, 2 laptops. And then the others are square stands. And then we have our phone squares that go with our phones. But those square stands are new this year. We finally have kind of refined that over time. And I can tell you just from, the Teen Book Con, where we use them for what the tweens read, and then the Teen Book Con, when I said every single cash register is going to be able to take cash, check, or charge. That was a monetary investment, a rather large monetary investment. And then they all had, I had bought receipt printers to go with them, because it's also important that you give the kids receipts, because they love to bring the book that they didn't buy back and say they want to exchange it for cash. No, you cannot. So that's what we use. So I use my visual anthology. And then with the square, the really cool thing about the square, I enter all of those books on the square. That takes some time. But in doing that, I can reconcile. Our reconciliation becomes a lot tighter when we come back to the store, because I sort of know exactly what I sold. Sort of. Inventory is coming upon us very quickly now.
Question over there. Oh, question here and over there.
Hi, Sally Sue Levine with the Storybook Shop in Bluffton, South Carolina. Do you have a rough rule of thumb of how many copies of a book you're going to order? I'm working with the PatCon, where I sent her to do a children's book fair, and we're using mostly local and regional authors. So not really well-known authors. And so I'm just like, how many books do I order? So
how many people are attending, do you think? I realize that's...
Last year, I think we had an attendance of about 65, 70. It was our first year.
Authors or people?
People.
Okay.
People.
We had...
you have to have a big enough stack to make it look decent.
You have to make them feel okay.
You can't just say, well, I think we'll sell 5 of your books. No. No, I think you would at least want to have case quantities. You at least want to think.
Oh, that's the other thing.
In case quantity, because it's much easier to check in. And I see Heather shaking her head, so she agrees, nodding. That case quantity makes it a lot easier to check in. when you're doing that because you're not getting a mixed
So what's
box.
your minimum case quantity? Probably 15 to 20, 16 to 20.
Yeah, picture books, yeah.
You probably want at least a case per author. Yeah. I think. Cause really, you don't want them to feel bad. And because
and you don't want to have 8 books left at the end of the festival.
You don't, so it's a hard balance because authors some authors are extroverts and are happy to be out there. Other authors are not and are introverted, and this is a real big ask for them to even be there. So you want them to at least feel like they're going to be successful, and maybe successful is doing all those books. And even if you don't sell them at the festival, have them sign them all, because then they're doing something and you can maybe sign them later or sell them later.
Can I ask a specific question about using Square? You said you enter all the books into Square. So then do you scroll, find them, and choose them with each cell, or do you scan them?
They're in a category. If you're using Square Stand, they're in a category. You go to that category, and yes, you do have to scroll.
You can scan.
Can you scan?
Oh no, I'm sorry. We have our scanners. I
have
forgot.
the scanner. Okay.
Yeah, we have a scanner.
I'm doing
They're the same scanners we use for our computers. And if you forget them, the libraries have the same scanners too.
Oh, awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you forget your scanners and you're 45 minutes away on a good day from your scanner, thank goodness we learned the hard way. Okay.
All right. So now we're going to talk about programming. Authors, volunteers, registration, food, activities, transportation, and signing. So here we go. Here's this year's crop of Teen Book Con 2019? Yeah, Teen Book Con 2019. 25 authors is generally our sweet spot. One year, Tweens Read, we had 30. That was not the strongest choice we've ever made. But just because it got a little too unwieldy. As Valerie said, I'm the head of programming, so we send out requests for submissions to publishers about 6 to 8 months ahead of time, ask for them to send to us who they want to send, and then I kind of make the first call and then share it with the committee, and we refine it and kind of rank them, and we send out our first round of invites and then backfill. We typically receive for Tweens Read and Teen Book Con anywhere between 80 and 90 author submissions. Again, we've been doing this for 10 years. It was not that way at the beginning. And for Bookworm, we probably get 30. And then we narrow that down to 8 to 10 because it's a shorter day. We work very hard to find a variety of authors who write about and reflect a variety of life experiences. Because Houston is the most diverse city in the country, we therefore want to reflect that back to our attendees. So this is the morning of Teen Book Con. We have a mass introduction of all the authors before we have our keynote address. They are speaking to a packed auditorium of usually 800 or more kids. I get choked up. This is one of the best days of my life every year because I walk those authors out and there are 800 children who have come to hear them speak. And it reminds us every year that there are children who love to read. And to be able to deliver that to them is really, really a wonderful thing.
But it is like herding cats.
Oh my God. Like when the author was like, I want to leave and go get fried chicken for lunch. And no one knew where the author was.
Like when I told them, Kathy said, now keep an eye on Andrew McCarthy because, he's very popular. I said, no, the kids know who he is. All the librarians knew who he was.
Yes, they
I
did.
found him. They were all the ones fawning all over him, but so they're like, he escaped. I said, he escaped where? They go, he's out in the wild.
And then the teenagers figured out that he directed Orange is the New Black, so then he was cool.
Then he was cool. I found him, he just wanted to walk around because he was having a great time.
He was like, this is amazing. Listen to these kids talk. I'm getting so many great ideas. I'm like, awesome, get back in the room. Because we keep them in, so at the 2 festivals.
They're in jail.
Author jail, it's very comfortable. Teen Book Con and Tweens Read, we have 5 panel sessions. You're seeing one of them right here. Each author appears 3 times, has an off period, and has a lunch period. Because, like I said, this is asking authors to expend a lot of energy, and we want to give them downtime. Again, we learned that the hard way when we had like authors sleeping at the end of the day, just lying down, needing some quiet time. It had not occurred to me, and I apologize to all authors who I stressed out. But it is like herding cats, and we set up, it's a giant rubric. I'll have to start doing it for Tweens Read. It's actually due on Friday, and I'm not going to get it done in time. But we have Post-it notes that we stick all over the place to try to figure out who to put on what panel. Basically what we do now is we find authors we think might have a good time together, and then we make up a title. Because we tried theme things, and sometimes that works, but sometimes it doesn't work. So we just kind of, again, throwing spaghetti at that wall, and we hope it works. Every single panel is moderated by a very experienced librarian or English teacher who basically introduces the authors, has them each read 60 to 90 seconds, and then facilitates a Q&A between the audience and the authors, trying to make sure that every author gets to participate, trying to make sure that not one person monopolizes questions, things like that. There's another panel session. We use, this is the dance room. That was a very successful dance team. Look at all those trophies up there. We're using a gym. Sometimes they have to cover their gyms, and that's very expensive, but that's up to the school district, not us. This is the con. So now I'm going to talk about volunteers. This is the brain trust of Teen Book Con right there. They're trying to solve a problem. It was called wristbands. It was called wristbands, and it was bad. If you ever decide to wristband a line, talk to me first, and I will talk you off that ledge. But it's mostly women. We have a few men. They spend a lot of time every year, and as we approach the festival, all of these are working librarians. So they are doing their full-time day job, and then at night and during breaks, we're just trying to deliver that programming, figuring things out, and taking care of things at the last minute. Then we also have a ton of community volunteers. Sometimes the school district will say, if you come volunteer, you can have a jeans pass. And that is a very big deal for teachers. They get to wear jeans to school. So we have a welcoming committee. Those are the people in the green. So the steering committee wears green, and then we put purple t-shirts on anybody who's volunteering. So it makes it easy for us to know who's in what role, and also to grab someone if you need help.
Those two volunteers right there that you can see their back, that's a husband and wife, and they come every year, and they will do anything that they are asked to do, and they are just from the community. They just think it's just the coolest thing to come and do this. They are not associated with...
No, not with any school. They just like the mission.
Super nice people.
And then we also have student volunteers. We call them Sherpas, and they are assigned an author because these high schools are very large, and we don't want authors wandering off. So we assign them. Sometimes it's for a day, sometimes it's for half a day, depending on how many student volunteers we get. And they bring them to and from their panel sessions if they need water, if they need to be directed to the bathroom. These students are students who attend that school, so they know how to get around. We have other student volunteers who come in from other school districts, and we will have them help mostly at the bookstore. Or in the signing lines at the end of the day. But when you're working with volunteers who are moving authors through the school, it's best to have volunteers who know where they're going. And then here's our registration. We use Eventbrite. The event is free, but we ask everybody to register, and we have a couple simple demographic questions, and that allows us to report back to publishers on attendance. That helps us figure out our 70% level. And, how far people come. And they come from a long way
away. And the school districts like to know that too. They like to know how many of their kids attended the festival. It's just checking off a box for them.
Yes. Here's them walking in. So they're lined up outside the school before the doors open, and then we just start farming them in, and we try to get them in as fast as possible. Again, we learned. People do not enjoy waiting in lines when they want to get in somewhere quickly. You have to feed them if they're there all day. So this is one way a school district or a school might make money. They have clubs who sell concessions. So that way the clubs take on all of that, and the festival does not have to have responsibility for that. The festival brings in food trucks, and the festival works with clubs within the school to sell pizza. And they just, they're constantly receiving delivery pizza, snacks, soda, all kinds of unhealthy thing that teenagers like to eat, especially like hot Cheetos. And it's just going on throughout the day. But again, that's something that is being provided, but is not the responsibility of the festival or of the bookstore. Food truck. Houston's a big food truck town. I think a lot of communities in the country now are, and it makes it so much easier to provide food. The one thing you have to think about and remind people is that food trucks are not fast food. It's not McDonald's.
You probably found that out.
You probably know that already, but just helpful to remind people. And then activities. So here's our photo booth that we have every year, and people have collected these standees over the year, and they get folded up and put into storage, and then the standees and the boas come out every spring. So we have activities for kids besides the sessions. This is a button making station put on by Harris County Public Library. So one of the partnerships we do is we work with public libraries to have tables, and that's great outreach for them. And each public library delivers a different activity.
Checks off a box for them too. They're reaching out to their readers. They're reaching out to their constituents.
Exactly. And then transportation. One of the things, because Houston is the size of Rhode Island, the festival offers bus grants up to $100 for a school to come and bring a busload of students. There's a Google form on the festival website where people apply. You do have to answer some questions. How are you going to prepare your students? What are you going to do? How many chaperones are coming? Do you understand that your students need to follow the rules? And then if they agree to all of that, they have to show up at the festival to pick up their check. But some of those checks are underwritten by publishers. As you can see, they're holding an Epic Read sign from HarperCollins, and sometimes they're underwritten by community members. True. And then I just love this picture. This is the head of English Language Arts for Clear Creek ISD, Billy. He is walking those authors down the hall to the signing, and that was clearly a great moment in his life. He was so happy. But so what we do is, it gets crazy at the end of the day because everybody's all excited to meet their authors. And we bring the authors into two gyms alphabetically. Again, we learned the hard way. And we just line them up there, each of the student desk, and we just line up lines and run signing lines. So we have good signage. This was the wristband room. Again, never again. But, you can see generally how it's set up. There's tables of authors, and we just have people feeding straight out from me, straight out from Valerie.
Valerie is never there. She's never even seen this room.
Seriously.
So let me just tell you that to really do this right, you have to divide and conquer. The minute we get to the school in the morning, Kathy is the author person. I'm the bookstore person. The only time I ever get to see the authors during the day is I introduce the authors at the beginning for the keynote. And I won't see them again all day because they're in another part. They're doing their thing. Kathy's herding them around and other volunteers are doing things. And I take the bookstore and I'm in charge of the bookstore. So if you were thinking about doing something like this, you might want to really think about who's going to be in charge of what and make that division clear. Because we have found that over the years to really work for us. If any bookstore question comes up, it comes to me. Any author question comes up, it goes to Kathy.
And then again, these are great moments. That's Varian Johnson. There's Vashti Harrison with two little girls at Bookworm. One thing we do at Bookworm is the night before, we have the authors come into the shop and sign every book. Because that way, if there's a meltdown, parents don't have to wait in line. They can just leave with signed books. And we find that the younger people so I think for Bookworm and Tweens Read, as long as there's a signature, kids are generally okay. Once you get to Teen Book Con, they're far more invested in having that moment with the author.
Yep.
So that kind of adjusts how we do our signings.
So we host a party at the store the night before the festival for all the authors to get to know each other. And because we're talking about teen authors, a lot of them know each other, and tweens authors, and they know each other. But it really kind of loosens them up and gets them ready for the next day. They get excited. They have their cocktails. It's just a really nice, a way to start the festival is with a party. And
we try to build community. That's another one of the things we do is we build community among authors. Authors who, Jason Reynolds and Brendan Kiley were together when they came up with the idea for All American Boys. They were in Houston at Teen Book Con. It's not that like, did you know awesome? Yeah. But just that we provide times for those things to happen. Again, that's a really cool thing to be able to help create community among a varied group of authors and communities is a really lovely thing. Okay.
Questions.
Or hang on. Should we do a bathroom break and then questions or just questions?
Let's do questions and then we'll do a bathroom break and then we're almost done.
Yeah.
I'm looking at my list from last year from Teen Book Con, and next year
That was your grocery.
It's my grocery list. I need author signs, a signage box, extra paper rolls. Oh yeah, we've shown up without enough paper rolls for the
one day
printers.
We will be great.
One day we will be great.
That is our motto.
We make sure we get our long extension cords. These are the kinds of things, and I actually have a printed out list for the whole festival, but this is one that I was doing because I had to go to a Mountains and Plains thing the day before Teen Book Con. And then then we have a little, and can we just say that at the end of the festival, we usually are, as we're packing up and going home, one person's taking notes and we're just throwing out, what we need. Jennifer's sitting over there.
A debrief.
A little debrief. Well, not quite to the beer debrief yet.
Because we're in a car and there's an open container law in Texas.
But you know what? Jennifer was writing notes as we were packing up, like we've lost a few cash register keys and you got to have that cash register open to be able to use it. Just little notes to self. So it's really good to debrief every time after you've done that festival. Many of you have done this before, but we find that if you do that debrief immediately as you're packing up, then you're good to go.
All right.
I have it. Hi, I was wondering for the tween reads, do y'all do both an opening and a closing keynote?
Oh, good question. That is a great question. I'm sorry, did you have more?
I guess part B, for the opening keynote, have you tried different times and have you noticed a difference in attendance depending on the time?
So that is our largest festival. 2,500 people. The auditorium only holds 800. So in the past, we have done an opening. We have done an opening and a closing. This year, we're throwing it completely up in the air. We have Jason Reynolds keynoting, and I know. And P.S. Lori from East City, where are you?
Yay.
Having bookseller friends is a huge thing. For those of you who may or may not know Jason Reynolds, he is very highly in demand. His schedule is always very tight. He never has time to pre-sign anything. And because he pushes himself so hard, he is often sick by the time he gets to your stop. So to prevent that, he's going to pre-sign everything at Lori's store. So Simon's shipping to Lori, Lori's unpacking, Jason's signing, Lori's repacking, and then Simon's shipping to Houston.
Isn't that nice?
Thank you, Lori.
Thank you, Lori.
But again, bookseller friends, like if you run into that, try to find a solution to that. Okay, so I digressed again. So what we're going to do this year with Jason is I haven't told you this yet.
You told me.
Did I? Okay.
Today.
I did tell you today. It's not sort of a keynote, but sort of not a keynote, and it's going to be called In Conversation with Jason Reynolds. And he's going to appear twice by himself. So 2 of his 3 will be by himself, and then 1 will be on a panel. So that allows him to see 1,600 people. And we're just going to wristband it. It was not my idea.
I'll be at the bookstore. I'll
She'll
be in the pop-up shop. I will
I don't
not.
know. I'm like, I don't care. I'm not in charge. And actually, the people who are handling this wristbanding are more able to handle a wristbanding than the people who handled that other one. Because that's just, as you get here, you get a wristband.
Yeah.
As opposed to you have to sign up through a Google form and pick your top. To get in the door to to get in the door to the keynote.
To get in the
Because
door to hear him
there's a
speak.
limited space. Okay, so not all the people who go to the festival. If you've got 2,500 people and you have 1,600 seats, and we're trying to figure out if should we show it remotely, then where do you show it remotely? That's all still kind of floating around, and we'll decide that in August. So the short answer is
We definitely are going to show it remotely in the Commons area.
it's going to be loud. People aren't going to be quiet there.
We did it for Teen BookCon.
Yeah, but they were quiet there.
Kathy, how do you know they were quiet there? You were in the auditorium.
Marco said they were quiet. Anyway, sorry, you don't need this. It's very fluid.
It's very fluid. But she had another question.
Oh, did you have a second question?
No, your other question is this. So we do different things. Like one year we did the, what do you call that? Comedy sports.
Oh yeah, so sometimes because part of what we want with with the closing keynote is that gets everybody into a central area and that lets us get the authors to the signing area. And we're very strict about you can't get in line early.
Yeah, you can't line up at 1:00 for the 4:00 signing.
You're here for a festival, you go participate in something. And they're children, so we can generally tell them that. Okay.
You said that lots of people come from far away. How much specific outreach or marketing time, energy, money is going into that, or you just let them find you?
Some of both, because the Texas Library Association is a very strong professional organization, and a lot of the librarians on the 3 committees have very active roles at the Texas Library Association. So they're posting on all of those boards. We also have dedicated social media people, volunteers for the festival, as well as those 2 charming people who went out the door, 2 cats. So there's a lot of social media going on. We try very hard to get coverage in the Houston Chronicle every year. I think many people know how newspapers go. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And we're always trying to think of new ways.
And as you build that reputation, you'll see that people will talk to other people, and throughout the year, believe me, when there are kids in the store shopping and they're all excited about this author, I'll say, hey, you got to come to our festival. And I at the bookstore level, I ask the festival to provide us with, physical flyers to hand out to those kids, or we'll write down the date on the back of a bookmark. Like, don't forget now.
Oh, and we use those shelf talkers.
And
you know those shelf talkers?
We'll put those in front of the author. Once we know once the authors are set, we'll put the logo of the festival, and it has their name. So all these in-store kind of physical marketing, little tools. Thank you. That was a great question. Good question.
Ugh. I'm sorry. Melissa's a very good friend. That's why I'm being obnoxious.
Hi, I'm Melissa from the Novel Neighbor in St. Louis. My question is, do your schools have parking for all those people? And if not, what in heck do you do?
That's why we pick big high schools in Texas.
Okay.
Yeah, big high schools, big high schools. And the last few years, the high schools that we've used are actually, for whatever reason, they're attached to, we have a lot of land in Texas, so we can build
It's not
big,
landlocked yet.
We're just not landlocked. So we use big parking lots, and a lot of them are multi-school complexes, so that here's the middle school and here's the high school, and maybe the football stadium is right there. And so there's a lot of parking.
But that is definitely something that goes into our thought process.
You can imagine we're not using, and you saw by the pictures if you looked at the high schools, we're not using the inner city high schools. Not that the inner city high schools are bad. They're older, they're smaller, they don't have the breakout space. That's another thing you need to think about if you are going to use a school, is the breakout space. We just went to our new site for the Teen BookCon. We just went for a site visit, and we have to look and make sure we get big enough rooms, and not every high school has big enough rooms to do it. And that's one of the reasons we don't use the one that backs up to us, is because they just don't have big enough breakout rooms.
And at we're the new site for Teen Book Con and Tweens Read during this school year. And Tweens Read, I think they're going to be parking the buses at the church across the street, because it's up to the school to make that relationship. But those are definitely things we have to think about. Also, you want to find schools that are off of a highway, so they're easy to get to if you're coming in from all over Creation.
Also, would you set up your bookstore in the school? Now, we're talking kids here, okay? A lot of them don't really understand that the books are not for the taking, if you know what I mean. So I'm just going to be real honest. You have to set up that bookstore in a way that you either have volunteers or staff members who can kind of keep an eye out for it. And having grown up in retail, I think I have a pretty sharp eye for a shoplifter, and we've caught them. We've caught them numerous times, as a matter of fact, especially the tween level. That part of being responsible hasn't quite kicked in yet. They don't really maybe understand about that. We also don't like them to carry their backpacks into the shopping area. So a lot of times we have in the past had them leave their backpacks outside of the shopping area. We're to the point now where I let them bring their backpacks in, but I don't want any publishers giving away tote bags. Again, just don't need
Learned
them.
that the hard way.
Learned that one the hard way too, using those tote bags to put books in there.
And if they insist on providing a tote bag, then everybody gets it when they get on the bus.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
Yeah. So, and that's one of the things I use my adult volunteers for at the bookstore level. If they come in and they've been asked to work in the bookstore, is they work in I ask them to look for shoplifters. Sorry.
How do you approach a suspected shoplifter? What do you do?
I'd like to see what's in your bag, please, and where's your receipt? The good thing about it is you're not approaching an adult. You're approaching a child. And so you already have a little position of authority. I chased these 3 girls down the hallway once. And as I came around the corner, they were from the school that was hosting the festival. And I saw one of the teachers and I told her what, and she said, I know those girls. She grabbed the principal. We had to have a little come to Jesus moment with them. She called their parents. So yeah, with the kids, you just have to say, I need to see your receipt.
And they don't have one.
If they don't have one, well,
I mean,
yeah.
You're in Texas, you still can't spank them, but.
No, but you just find whoever brought them.
Can you show me, please take me to your, chaperone.
To your chaperone. And usually the chaperone, I one time had a chaperone tell me, oh, they told me they paid for that. And I know they didn't, but other than that, the chaperone's like.
And again, it's not a common occurrence, but.
You gotta have a plan.
Gotta have a plan.
But this is a business.
Yeah. Well, and you just have to have a plan for it because they're kids. Let her talk. Who's letting
her talk?
You're not. Oh. We had 2 things where we've asked them now to have a receipt in order to exchange a book, and then also to ask the publishers not to
give away books,
give freebies of any books
that we're
actually selling,
right?
Because there's no way to tell.
Right up here,
Stephanie. No, it's tied into the.
So when you talked about breakout rooms, and the number of panels that you have the authors on, you then have you created tracks that you publicize ahead of time and hold simultaneous panels that people can choose which one they go to?
Oh, yeah.
And which topics appeal to them?
So it's not really topics. Again, it's more what authors or funny titles appeal to them. Probably, so there's 5 sessions. During 2 of the sessions, half of the authors are on lunch. So let's call them sessions 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1 and 4 typically have 5 to 6 panels running concurrently. 2 and 3 have 2 or 3 panels running concurrently because half of the authors are on lunch. And 5 tends to have 3 or 4 panels because we like to give a number of authors rest time before the mass signing that happens at the end of the day.
Yeah, I kept thinking, like, this can't be, when you showed the pictures, this can't be that the kids come in, sit in a room, and they're just there for 6 hours or whatever.
Not at all.
They have to get up and move around.
There's constant moving.
Okay.
Each panel lasts 45 minutes, and we allow 10 to 15 minutes for passing time. Because that also, we have to move the authors in the building too.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Question back over here. Did you have a question? Setting up
the rooms. So volunteers, typically mostly school district volunteers, because those we try to have set up Friday night. So when we come in Saturday morning. We come in Saturday morning, Valerie leads the team that's setting up the bookstores, and I check all the rooms, make sure we have all the programming set to go. And there, one high school has used their soccer team because the soccer coach thinks it's a really cool idea. One high school uses our junior ROTC. The more bodies you have helping you, the easier it is on your volunteers, so they can last with you for the 36 hours that the festival is live from setup to breakdown.
I was just kind of wondering how far, I know you're talking about notes from last year already. You start taking them immediately. How far in advance do y'all plan? Do you start immediately? Do you give yourself like 2 days?
Well, the planning committees are planning all year long, and they're taking copious notes. So for the bookstore part of it, that really starts about 6 weeks ahead when we start deciding how many books we're going to order. And using lists and notes from previous years, what we can improve upon. It takes us probably a good 3 days to kind of assemble everything that we need to have assembled. I mean, we're not doing it all day.
Because we're still a bookstore.
But we're assembling. We're like, that needs to go. That needs to go in the pile. That needs to go in the pile. Make sure when we go to the storage unit first thing in the morning, don't forget the bags. Yeah, that's happened.
If it's raining.
But so it takes 6 weeks out. We're starting to plan. A week out, we're really in full, make sure this gets packed up to go, mode.
And then in terms of programming, the planning committee, people are always thinking, but we're really in active participation probably 5 months out. I will start the process of assembling authors ahead of time, and early on when we start meeting for the next event, we're able to tell them the authors we have. And then at this point, we meet on a monthly basis. And for Teen Book Con, most of the time we met by Zoom because we're so familiar with each other. It was more of a chance to talk things through and start thinking about new things. And then we had we have a walkthrough where everybody with a key role is there and we walk it through and figure out how it's going to work and what's going to change.
Yeah. And I forgot to tell you this part. I'm just remembering past bad experiences or just where we learned, make sure you have enough cash.
Oh, God.
Yeah. That's bad.
When you have to send
Actually,
the library to the bank.
The bookkeeper, has a file where because you don't remember it a year later. You don't remember how many pennies you went to the bank to get. So she has a file now so we know what to get the next year. And if we ran out of something, we write that down so we know to bring more next year.
You can never have enough ones.
And pennies.
So who's in charge? Because I think a lot of us would love to have you in charge of everything. It's awesome. But as far as you have an exec committee, you have a planning committee. Do you hire like a part-time executive director for this? I mean, how does that?
It's a librarian.
They are all volunteer librarians.
Lisa Stultz is the
woman
librarian.
That group of women that you saw sitting at that desk. They're all full-time school librarians.
Melanie Scales is the one. They're all full-time school librarians.
So that planning committee then kind of divvies up. They kind of take initiative and.
So in that planning committee, they have there's a hospitality committee.
Yeah,
where
like
they
there's
bring
someone who now handles all of hospitality.
for the authors. There is a student volunteer chairperson. They are in charge of the student volunteers. There's a person in charge of the adult volunteers. There's the social media group. And when the planning committee, which is the executive committee basically, when they meet, they go over okay, what's going on with your little group? What's going on with your group? What's going on with your group? T-shirts, who's in charge of this? And so that's what's happening in those planning committees. And Kathy and I either sit in on some.
We try to be at all.
We try to be at all, but we're not at all of them.
Okay. And if that's great. But have you ever felt like if you didn't have those 2 or 3 leaders rise up, you'd need to hire someone on a part-time basis for that?
I guess I could do that. I'd have to really run the numbers and make sure that it was financial.
I'm not volunteering for the job. I was just asking. So,
you know what? I guess I would have to really seriously look and see if financially it's viable for the store for, like I said, the things that are immediate book sales, immediate cash coming into the store. And then the auxiliary things that go with that, the reputation and the other things that are a little less monetizable, if that's a word, that I think has helped our reputation and been able to keep a bookstore where there is no walk-in business at all for 22 years. We are in a shopping center that has seen great change. The reason I say we don't have any we have walk-in, but most of the people come to the bookstore because they know us by reputation. And so these are ways to get our reputation out there in the greater Houston area. We do a lot of offsite events. We do a lot of book catering. We do a lot of other things other than festivals. And some of that comes as a byproduct of having met somebody at one of the festivals.
Has anyone ever wanted to be a part of that as another indie in Houston? Like have because I can't imagine, you guys do the work and then jump in, or even Barnes & Noble. If they asked to be a sponsor, I mean, how would you handle that?
No.
We would say,
I would
say no, thank you.
Nicely. No, thank you.
But you know what? If they wanted to, no.
No.
I went no.
From a monetary point of view, I don't know if it would be viable to do that.
Just because of the size. It's not,
So we're not talking a 10,000 people festival. We're not talking Decatur Book Festival or the Texas Book Festival, or North Texas, or even the National Book Festival. But I don't know if you read in the Shop Awareness, but the Texas Book Festival now has an exclusive arrangement with Book People. They are the only bookseller on, they're the only bookseller on site. And the National Book Festival, Politics and Prose. So yeah, I don't know that it would be. That's a good question. No one has approached us yet, but I think I would politely say that, this is our gig and we built this gig and we're going to keep it.
I think something else to remember, and we keep saying it, but we've been doing this for 10 years. When it started, I was just like, oh, please God, can people come? Because it's going to look really bad if no one comes. And we got 400 people and we were beside ourselves with excitement. So starting small is okay. And we didn't start all 3 at once. They came to us as we created. And, keep it simple.
Yeah. I know it sounds really like, you're like, God, that's a lot of work. It is. But we've learned. And over the years.
I was wondering if you could talk a little bit more about, about how the rest of the staff at the bookstore is involved in the festival and whether there are some jobs that you delegate to people, because I know you were already talking about it's important to have the separation between the store and the festival, but how as a staff did people get involved?
They get scheduled.
They get scheduled to work. All hands on deck is what we say, because if you're not at the festival, you're back at the store. There was one year that we had some people that were going to be gone that weekend, key people. I have a woman that is a good friend of mine who has worked for me for almost 20 years now. And she basically will not call herself the manager, but she kind of is the manager. She's totally the manager. She really is the boss, actually.
Of both of us.
So we can leave her with one half of one person and she can run the whole bookstore on a Saturday by herself. She just knows how to do it. Once we had to call in like some past staffers, people who have moved on, and we had to call them and say, could you come back and work at the bookstore just for a half shift? Everybody is involved. Everybody knows. We know about the authors. Jennifer is here. She helps Kathy plan the panels. I don't have anything to do with the panels.
Well, you don't pay them.
Yeah, but I just look at it and go, yeah, that looks good. So, and then they work the bookstore, work that whole massive thing with the CO, with the customer orders and the library school orders, which is this big shifting mass. So, yeah, everybody knows. You understand if you're working at the bookstore that this is a big deal, that a lot of work goes into it.
I don't want to dwell on more of the bad stuff, but, you mentioned that early on you were at a particular district and you lost support. Maybe just as a cautionary tale, could you expound on that and why you think you lost the support or why you know you lost the support?
They moved on.
She retired.
Yeah. Okay.
The head of library services retired.
Yeah. And once we didn't have her, going for us, interestingly, we had already felt like we didn't have the building support for the last couple of years that we were in the building. We had her support and mostly her librarian support. But when she retired, the woman who was hired, great customer, great ambassador for us, does wonderful school visits for us. She's like, it would be great if you weren't in the district this year. And we're like, just so happens we decided to move, because she wasn't willing to take on what this other woman had taken on.
Because she had to focus on, remember, they were bringing in an all new cataloging system. She's like, I got to teach my librarians how to do that and get them on board.
Right.
I can't expound.
So it wasn't a bad thing. They just, people move on to other jobs.
But cautionary tale moving forward, we picked a school district. And I did not do as good a job as I should have of ensuring that we had support all the way to the top. Fortunately, there was a censorship issue in Texas at that school district that was going to host the festival, and it conveniently happened 8 months ahead of time, so we were able to shut that down and move to another school district. But again, cautionary tale, I should have done better. I should have made sure it went all the way to the top because it didn't.
Oh, yeah. We just have a really simple question. No one at this table understood book catering, a term you just used.
It's a good phrase, isn't it?
Don't you like it? So when the DePelchin Foundation decides to invite an author to come to invite an author to come speak at their gala luncheon, and they need a bookseller, we're ready. We've got our squares. We've got books.
Always say you report to the New York Times.
Always say you report to the New York Times. So or let's say we have one in a couple of weeks, a local author who is a good friend. She's a nationally known local author, but she's going to speak at a book club. A book club has asked her to come speak. It's a large book club, and there's a charity component to it. I'm going to go to their house. I'm going to go to the person's house. I got my square, got my books, got my wagon.
But literally, it's a wagon. Like one of those canvas ones that folds up. It's amazing.
Yeah, we just show up. So book catering to me is when we've not set anything up. New York did not call us. We did not call somebody. There's usually not that much involved with a publicist, although they probably arranged with a publicist to get that person. For whatever reason, a women's group has booked somebody to come speak and they want us to be in the back of the room selling books. That's what book catering to me is. We'll show up with the books. We'll sell.
Okay, let's do Cecilia and then Jabron.
Can you go into a little more detail when you say ensure you had support all the way to the top? What exactly does that look like? Is that meetings? Is that emails? What do you do in order to ensure that support? How do you go and talk to them?
It was phone calls in this situation, to make sure. We just did some very rapid networking, and conveniently there are many school districts in the greater Houston area that have a director of library services. So that is the head librarian who does not have his or her own school, oversees all the librarians. Again, it's Texas. The Texas Library Association is very strong. I understand that doesn't happen in every state. And I knew that she had a direct line to the superintendent and could say, I'm going to do this. It requires financial commitment. Are you in? And that I knew I could trust that line. That's what I mean.
Thank you.
Thanks. I'm just trying to connect a few dots in my head here. So do your festivals operate under a separate 501c3, or are they operating through your bookstore?
The festivals are run by volunteers. They are a 501c3. All three are separate.
Okay.
They're all three separate. That one of the reasons someone asked this during the break, one of the reasons that we had to get them to set up 501c3s was because they needed some place to accept that grant money and run, things through that.
So that leads me to sort of bouncing off an earlier question, like how are you, the store, really able to control who comes in as a sponsor or partner of those festivals? Like, I mean,
you mean like if they were to ask another bookstore, they're like, hey, we decided to ask another bookstore.
Let's not say that they're going to go out and ask for another bookstore, but let's say a bookstore approaches them and says, could we have a piece of this pie? We're trying to be part of the community as well. Or you have somebody that wants to sponsor a portion of it.
Why are you making my life difficult?
Because I think all of our lives are difficult, right? These are the things we get faced with. And additional, just to add on to that too, is do all three then also carry their own insurance, or is insurance provided through
really? Did
some
you
partner?
Have to say that
Yeah,
word?
absolutely. It's important stuff.
It is.
It is. They do not carry their own insurance. One school district that
previous one did.
That previous one did ask that we provide one of those insurance things that you fill out that, like my landlord asks me for, that says, we're responsible. We've been very fortunate that we have not had to use that insurance. And the guy didn't even charge me when I hit the pylon. I was so upset. I was like, we didn't make any money on this festival because I'm going to have to pay for that darn truck. And so when I went up there to tell him about it on Monday morning, he's like, that wasn't anything. That happens all the time. I was like, yes. So excited. I think if someone were to ask while those committees are autonomous, okay, let's be honest. Two of the committees, super, let's work it out. One of the committees, a little bit more politics going on there. We kind of have to play around, but they all know at the end of the day, they will not get those authors unless Blue Willow, Kathy Berner, is putting that together. They know they will not get that. And if they decided that they wanted to break it out into multiple ones, again, I would have to seriously decide whether or not my participation is going to be there. No.
Neither one of us.
Neither one of us.
Teen BookCon tried to make me one, and I was like, because there needs to be.
There needs to be, a separation. We're providing a service. Again, it's not book catering, but we're providing a service to these three festivals. Now, as what we've told you today, you have heard, we have been very instrumental in a lot of the details and a lot of the planning and a lot of the changes over the years. But when it comes to the end of the day, no. We are not. And mostly because I want them to go out and find money. And
there's money out there. There's a lot of oil and gas money out there.
Any other questions?
Any other questions? Okay.
Camille.
One quick one. You mentioned, I think, a couple of times that you have that you will take purchase order purchases, and that sometimes the libraries will buy from you. What's the value of them doing that through you rather than through what their normal channels would be?
That's a good question. What?
They get it signed.
They get them signed. They're at the festival. They're getting their books signed. Yeah, that's really value. A lot of them are buying them for their kids to walk through the line and yeah, and the immediacy. Thank you, Jennifer. It's the immediacy of the buy. And plus also, we've worked, I think, I'm not patting ourselves on the back, but we work hard for that reputation, and I think the librarians understand that.
Well, if they don't buy the books, then, sales are what makes publishers send authors to us. So if they buy books, that's more sales. So then the numbers look better. So then we continue to bring in high quality authors. One other thing that just popped in my head, we're very lucky in that we get some great top of the line authors. But another thing that's very important to us is bringing in debut authors for us to be able to help people kind of break in. And if it's a book with a great reputation that we want to get behind,
or sometimes a local author that, maybe they don't have a new book out, but
a local author that is published traditionally, not independently.
That is true. We usually, there's not very many publishing houses in Houston, but there is one that's Arte Publico, which is associated with the University of Houston. And we usually, if we can find an author from their group, we usually try to.
We encourage them to submit for every festival.
Because again, trying to support our local presses. Yes. I do offer a discount to librarians. I'm not sure how far I can go into that detail, as for the antitrust laws that the ABA has to provide. But yes, we do offer an educator discount, but I offer one year round. But yes, they do get one at the festival.
If they identify themselves.
Yes. Yes.
All right, friends. We're going to end early because
some people have to get a costume on.
No, not costumes yet.
I thought it was costume day.
No, now it is. Oh my God. It is costume day, but we have to go to that mentor-mentee reception, and then you go put your costume on, and then you go back. It's on the schedule, which I shared. Y'all have been a wonderful audience. Our emails are up here. If you have any questions, we are happy to answer them either now or via email in perpetuity. Please remember, if you're asked to, I think, are you supposed to rate it?
You need to rate us. Anything
you.
less than a 5 on Yelp, not going to be happy.
We're 5-star Lyft drivers.
Fill out the rating for the session, because this is the feedback for the session is how the ABA plans such awesome education.
Have a great festival.
Thank you for listening to Booked, the Bookstore Education Podcast brought to you by the American Booksellers Association. Don't forget to subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast app. Additional educational resources can always be found on the ABA website at www.bookweb.org. Happy reading!